And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off.
Go ahead and say it, Ed. Go Tigers!
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
You like that? You like that?
F it. Jamar's down there somewhere.
The New Orleans Saints select Marcus Davenport.
No!
Splash Brothers? Yeah.
It's playoff. Keep going, Brace.
The playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Can use to spread your name and shine a light for you. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, jumping right on in, guys. Start, sit, sleeper pod week 4. This episode, Josh and I are going to give our start, sit, sleeper picks for each position. We pick players outside the top 5 at quarterback, top 10 at running back, top 10 at wide receiver, and top 5 at tight end. That we primarily think, are going to be your stud. Those players are going to be your studs that are in those areas. So we don't even look at those guys. But these are guys that we think you should start. They think you should sit this week, or sleeper guys this week. And these are just, picks that we think are matchup based for this week, not for like season long or anything like that. Also, we're going to throw up some top streaming auction defenses and maybe a couple kickers in the end. But first, before we get into that, I want to thank our sponsors, Big Reed BBQ, Automotive Detailing Solutions, This Little Piggy Barbecue Food Truck, Mimi's Children's Boutique, and Doug DeMona Feed and Seed. And our title sponsor for this pod this week is going to be Big Reed BBQ. Started as a family recipe in 1986. Our mild flavor is right on time, and our spicy is just enough heat. Owner Ken Reed and Director of Marketing Andre Leonard say you can get our sauce at Doug DeMona Farm and Feed, Time to Shine Detail, the Salty Brahma, at the Equipment Store, and on Amazon. That's right, and on Amazon. So anybody listening that's not local to North Louisiana around Jackson Parish, you can get it on Amazon as well, shipped straight to your house. So you don't even have to get out of your house to get Big Reed Barbecue to your door. We appreciate you guys supporting us, and thank y'all. And we're going to keep getting your name out there. Jumping right on into our news, which would be just pretty much just a couple injury updates real quick before we get right started. Austin Eckler, with his high ankle sprain, was limited at practice yesterday. I had not seen an update as of today. I will double check real quick. Gets another limited practice today. So
one thing about him, if I ain't mistaken, they have a bye week next week.
They do. So
I mean, why wouldn't you hold him out and come back after the bye week, be ready to go?
That's what the presumption has been originally when he sat out last week, they thought, but then he started practicing this week. And then I think, are they 1-2, Josh? Or are they 0-3?
No, they're 1-2. They won their first game last week.
So they're 1-2.
The two defeated teams played each other last week, Minnesota and
that's right.
And Chargers.
So, they're probably thinking they better not lose, too many in a row. Lose too many, otherwise they're going to get too far behind. But I don't know.
Yeah, going to the bye week 2-2, that sounds a lot better. And plus, the backups haven't done anything for them.
Oh man, their rushing game is something terrible. I'll be straight honest. I dropped Josh Kelly I had him in 3 out of 4 leagues, and I dropped him in every league I had him in. I mean,
he's been horrible,
dude. I don't even know what. I don't even know what to say. His efficiency was terrible. But anyway, Austin Eckler lugged limited practice yesterday and today. Keep an eye on him. Like Josh said, they got a bye week coming up after this week. They could end up holding him out again. But if you got him and he does play, if he's active, you got to fire him up. So
you got to start him,
yeah. So just keep a lookout for that. Next, Saquon Barkley with that ankle injury got a limited practice in on Thursday, which is a good sign because he's been out since Thursday of last week. Sunday of the week before because he sat out Thursday last week. And then they don't play till Monday night. So he's got plenty of time. If he's logging a limited practice already on Thursday, that's a good sign. I'd be looking for him to get a full practice in before Monday night to come back.
The problem is, like you said, Monday night. So
that's right. You better have Matt Breida.
Well, you better know, and you better know or be pretty sure he's going to start if you're not going to play.
And I'll be honest,
on Sunday.
If you ain't got Breida and you got him and you want to roll the dice, pick up Brightwell. Brightwell has been he's kind of been the 1B to Matt Breida's 1A so far this while Barkley's been out, and the same with last year. So if you got Barkley and you really don't have any other options and there's nothing on the waiver, I almost guarantee you Brightwell is out there. And you could go pick him up, drop, if you got an extra defense or an extra quarterback that probably won't get picked up, drop and pick up Brightwell and roll the dice, and then you can throw him in there. You never know. He might get lucky. He might fall in the end zone or something.
Who do they play? I can't remember. It seems like it's pretty good defense, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was not the best matchup for Daniel Jones. Let's see. They're playing. No, I'll take that back. Seattle. But it's at New York. But
okay. Well, he might have. If he plays, he could have a pretty decent game. But unless you just have to play him, I would hate to pass on a pretty decent running back on Sunday. Knowing.
Yeah, definitely. So, but keep an eye on that as we get close to Monday night. Next, Jalen Waddle cleared concussion protocol and practiced in full, so he will be back this week, as we pretty much thought, because it seems like if you get a concussion, you're out for a week. That's pretty much it. So it's been pretty true for just about everybody so far. So Jalen Waddle back from concussion protocol. Fire him up. DK Metcalf, I got a notification, and I was reading just like during this game right before the pod started with the rib injury. He missed practice today, nursing that rib injury. Not 100% sure what this means, because last week he kind of did the same thing, and then he got a limited practice in. I think it was Friday, Josh, and he ended up playing 75% of the snaps and put up 7 catches for 114 yards or something like that.
Had a good game. Yeah.
So, even if he's didn't practice today, that doesn't mean he ain't going to play this weekend. Dr. Coach Pete Carroll's out there working his shaman magic or whatever on him and getting him to come back. So, I just keep an eye out for DK. If he gets a limited practice in sometime before Sunday, I think it's probably a decent chance he suits up, and you definitely want him in your lineup, because 75% of DK is probably way better than what you got on your bench.
Well, I feel like you're going to be dealing with this all year. He's probably going to miss a lot of Friday practices.
That's right.
But I can tell you, this dude is ready to roll when it comes Sunday.
So speaking of rib injuries, Deebo Samuel did not practice on Wednesday, and I don't think he practiced today either, because I think I got another notification, but I didn't update that. It did not practice on Wednesday and did not practice today, and 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan is listing them questionable for the game Sunday. We will see how that goes.
Ayuk should be back.
It says they're hoping. Yeah, it says they're hoping. I got him next on the list, but it says they're hoping for Samuel to practice on Friday. But if
ribs is a tough injury to get through, because you get hit. Your whole body hurts.
If he don't, the good thing, the X-rays were negative, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have a cartilage injury that they don't see. So, but if he don't practice on Friday, wouldn't hold my breath.
Well, they're going to be. I feel like they can be safe because of all the weapons they have in their defense.
Yeah,
so they could probably they could miss him and still win pretty easy.
And then, not only that, Brandon Ayuk came back to practice Wednesday. Practiced again today, so he should be good to go. I'd be watching for him to get a full in, but if Debo's out, man, I think that spells a big game for Brandon Ayuk personally.
And Kittle's usually he plays better when Debo's not there. When he had that big run for about 4 or 5 games last year, it was when Debo was out. So if you have Kittle, and Debo's out, you want to definitely play him.
Yep. And then after that, James Conner with a back only limited. And normally I don't, and that's what I should have left with this caveat whenever I started this segment. There's several players that were limited yesterday or today, but they're practicing, and they didn't really have a specific injury during the game or anything like that, typically that means they're just kind of maintenance days for these guys and they're not actually in danger of missing the game. But James Conner has a history of back injury, and that's why I thought this was a little fishy because back injuries are very fickle, especially for football players. And he was limited Wednesday. I would just keep an eye on him. As far as
wonder if something didn't happen in the game, because they said that towards the end of the game, he didn't play near as many snaps as
he only played 64% against Dallas.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
He had a great game, in there,
98 yards with a touchdown, 2 catches. I mean,
yes.
So.
But, he done a lot of that early in the game, too.
Yeah. But I was pulling it up because a lot of these, it kills me because I write this article during the day before this pod today, and then they don't release practice schedule, practice participation till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. But it says Connor was a full go at practice today, so shouldn't have to worry about him.
He's a tough guy.
Yeah. And then last but certainly not least for some people, Anthony Richardson concussion, still in the protocol as the last I had heard, but he was a full participant. So I'm going to double check for y'all real quick. Practice is in full and seems to be ready to make his return, but it does not say he has cleared the protocol. So I'd just be watching and waiting, because if he doesn't, what it is, the last hurdle is getting cleared by an independent neurologist outside of the NFL. And once he's cleared by that independent neurologist, then he can return to play. So just keep an eye on him if anybody's got him. I know he was dropped in a couple leagues that I'm in, and I'm really thinking about picking him up because he had some good games. He had that one really good game there. I think it was week 2, Josh, the week that he got hurt. And he was looking to kind of find his footing, and then he got that concussion. So I kind of wonder if we're not looking at another Lamar Jackson type player here. I mean, he had 17 points in the game he got hurt, and he only played 32% of those snaps. So,
well, I have him as a backup, and man, it's hard not to put him in. He's so good,
and
he's going to score a touchdown in this game with his legs. I mean, it's going to happen.
But anyway, so Richardson, be looking for him to come back. He's just got to clear the concussion protocol, and then he'll be back. So that's going to wrap up our injuries, news updates, and we're going to jump right on in our starts, sits, and sleepers. But we're going to start, as we always do, with our starts at quarterback. And Josh, who do you have starting at quarterback this week?
All right, I got Russell Wilson.
Yep.
He's eclipsed 300 yards in back-to-back games, thrown multiple touchdowns in 2 of the 3 games, and even ran for 56 yards in 1 game.
Yep.
Sean Payton's offense is going to eventually get on track. And who better than to do it against than the Chicago Bears? Yep. They have been horrible on both sides of the ball, allowed the 5th most passing touchdowns and the 3rd most TD pass. Third most.
Yep. 3rd most touchdown passes.
And the 5th most yards, I guess, too.
Yeah. They're pretty much there allowing the most, just about. It's Minnesota, I believe, is at the top for everything. And then it's they're mixed in there and a few things, them and
Denver is right in there in the mix too. They're pretty bad.
Those Denver's poor stats are kind of skewed. You got to be honest, because of that one game.
Last game. Yeah.
And that's why whenever I was going through and picking some stats and stuff for players today, anybody involved in the Miami-Denver game, it's very skewed from that one game. It's kind of hard to see that. But I've also got Russell Wilson as my start, Josh. I mean, he's the number 4 quarterback in fantasy so far this year. You should be starting him, and I'm not saying he should be super high ranked or whatever, but I mean, he's ranked right now. Let's see. Looks like, is that 10?
He's somewhere around there.
Yeah. So, I mean,
this week against the
fair.
Bears,
Yeah.
I mean, he could possibly have his best week of the year.
Yeah. I do, which I do see a couple analysts, they do agree with me. I was about to say, I have a hard time ranking Joe Burrow ahead of him this week because the way Burrow's been playing, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But yeah, I like him. Number 4 fantasy quarterback so far. He's, like you said, he's going against 26th ranked defense against quarterbacks, and they've given up at least 22 fantasy points in each of the first 3 weeks to quarterbacks, the Bears. So I mean their floor is 22. I'm just saying. So, but yeah, I like Russell Wilson a lot. And then go ahead.
The Bears are like a fade for anybody. Yeah. If you've got players playing against the Bears, put them in.
Heck, if you got players on the Bears, it's kind of hard to play them.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I know a lot of people are picking DJ Moore and Justin Fields to bounce back this week, and I can see it, but it's just, man, they've struggled so much. It's just hard to make that pick, because I thought about that with Fields as my start, but
a lot of the analysts think he's going to have a big week. I got to see it to believe it.
I agree.
He's just not done anything.
Well, I don't know what their offense is doing. We say him, but it's really not him. It's that freaking offensive coordinator, offense in general. It's got to be, man, because nobody's really being successful. Not the running game, not anything. But anyway.
Well, until they start letting him run,
yeah,
they're never going to get that out. That's where it starts.
Yep.
With him.
We've got Clay's picks, guys, so we're going to go through Clay's picks too. And Clay's pick start at quarterback's Trevor Lawrence. Coming in, depending on your rankings, looks like he is ranked 13th. Going up against Atlanta at home. Honestly, not really living up to the hype so far this year.
Actually, they're playing in London, right?
Oh, that's right. They are playing in London. You are
right. That's a home game for
it's
Jacksonville.
It's a home game for Jacksonville in London.
That's their second home.
That's right. So, he's thrown 40 passes the last 2 weeks, so you like the volume. Unfortunately, they're just not getting it going.
His accuracy hasn't been the greatest.
Yeah,
either.
It was 53% week 2, 67 last week, which is better. It was 75 in week 1, which is what he was sitting around last year. And he also carried the ball 7 times in week 1, and then it's kind of declined each week. But I really feel like against Atlanta, this is kind of a get-right game. Their defense is kind of middle of the pack as far as that goes. They're the 16th ranked defense against the quarterback. Last week they gave up 21 points to Jared Goff. The week before they gave up 26 to Jordan Love. So it's not anybody you expect to keep him down. So I think that's a solid pick. And if you got Trevor Lawrence, 99% of the time you're firing him up anyway. So
well, I talked to 2 people that have him actually over the last couple of days, and they were asking me, do I drop him? Do I try to get somebody else? And I'm like, there's nobody out there probably left that's going to be better. I said, hold on to him. I feel like this is his get right week, and maybe it can get him going again. But then again, you might want to try to find somebody as a backup just to have, because
CJ Stroud, son, which he ain't going to be out there much longer, but you there?
Too.
I lost you there for a second, Josh.
If he's actually out there.
Who?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I said Brock Purdy, if he's there too, I think is a good option.
Yeah, he's pretty well owned. After that first couple weeks where he kind of had some primetime games where he showed out, he got owned pretty quickly. But
last week.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, so that's our starts, and let's go ahead and move on to our sits at quarterback. Who you got sitting at quarterback there, Josh?
All right, I got Dallas's own Dak Prescott. Dallas has not been great this year.
We're losing you again there, Josh.
Other than a pretty good game against the Jets in week 2, Dak. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, boy, you're cutting in and out a pretty good bit there.
All right. Anyway, yeah. I got Dak Prescott.
Yep.
Other than the game against New York in week 2, Dak hasn't been too good in the other games. His O-line is banged up, which is an issue. The Patriots haven't allowed a quarterback to throw for 250 yards this season. So they went up against Tua and Hurts and kept them in check. So I expect Prescott to struggle in this game. And, like I said, he hasn't really been great this year anyway.
Yep. Yeah, no, I picked Dak at the beginning to be sliding, especially with their scheming that, want to run the ball more with Pollard. And then their coach coming out saying they want to slow the ball down. And whenever you slow the ball down, you just lose a lot of volume that way. And they're going up against New England, and Lord knows if there's anybody that's gonna just kind of sneak, which they kind of got snuck up on last week against Arizona. But if there's anybody that's really gonna sneak up on somebody, it's gonna be New England. Bill Belichick will smother an offense in a heartbeat. And going back and looking, I mean, they really did that to Miami a couple weeks ago, and we just see what Miami did to Denver. And this Patriots defense might be a lot better than they've played so far this season. So I like that pick a lot. And then going on to Clay's pick at sit for quarterback, he's got Brock Purdy going up against Arizona. Clay must have a lot of faith in Arizona's defense after what they did to Dallas, I guess.
He was almost a start for me.
Either that, or he's thinking that San Fran's D's going to hold them down. They're going to get up and run the ball a lot, and Purdy's not going to have a lot of volume, which is what happened. I mean, what kind of happened against the Rams, I guess, a little bit.
Well, with Ayuk back, I was kind of thinking Purdy might have a pretty big day.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so there's that. And if they do get up early on Arizona, end up running the ball, that could happen. But I kind of feel like Arizona's kind of finding their footing a little bit. I don't think they'll be able to score like they did against San Francisco, against Dallas, but I could still see where if they got up that Purdy would not have as big of a week. But I still think if you got Purdy, chances are you're probably going to want to be playing him the way he's been playing here lately. And then
what I think? What I think is kind of funny is Arizona beats Dallas, and all of a sudden Kyler Murray can't wait to get in there, wants to be on the field.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's just hilarious.
Yeah, I think they should trade him. Just be done with it and be like, nope, Josh Dobbs is our quarterback. You can go back to playing Call of Duty or hang out with Colin Kaepernick or something. But yeah, I completely agree. I'm not surprised, honestly. Not after some of the shenanigans it seems like he's pulled already that we've kind of heard about, that they haven't really leaked, but I don't know. It seems like where there's always smoke, there's fire, but neither here nor there. Rolling on to my sit for the week, I got Joe Burrow, unfortunately. This doesn't have anything to do with Burrow, that offense. Has more to do with his injury and him trying to kind of play through it. Because we know he was not completely healthy last week on Monday Night Football. And he looked okay, but the fact is he didn't have a setback, but and the longer it goes, the better it'll be. But they're also going up against Tennessee defense that plays pretty well at home, and they're going to be at Tennessee. And they're really good at slowing the game down, slowing the ball down, running the ball a lot. And I feel like not going to be the best game script for Joe Burrow, but also the chance of him re-injuring scares me. So if I got Joe Burrow, I'm probably trying to sit him one more week just to let him get back on track if he needs to. He might have a great game, but I just feel like temper your expectations with him against Tennessee, and I wouldn't roll the dice just in case he does hurt it in the first quarter or whatever, and then he comes out, So that's my.
If anybody needs a week, it is Joe Burrow,
dude, no doubt. So, but that's going to round out our sits at quarterback. Who do you got sleeping at quarterback, Josh?
Well, I'm going with the same guy I had last week. He is ranked 23 this week.
Yep.
He is quarterback 15, Matthew Stafford.
Yep.
As long as they keep ranking him that low, he's probably going to continue to be a sleeper for me. I just think he's underrated, and he's got weapons, and he's got another one coming back, hopefully within the next week or two.
Me too.
Keep ranking him low, and we was talking about, if you needed to pick somebody up, he's there still on the waiver wire with some, and he'd be a great one to pick up to fill in for your quarterback if you needed.
And that's actually Clay's sleeper too. And so I've got some stuff pulled up. So they're going up against the Indianapolis Colts, right? 27th against the quarterback so far this year. And they have given up at least 21 points to every quarterback they faced so far. 21 points to Trevor Lawrence in week 1, 26 points to C.J. Stroud in week 2, 29 points last week to Lamar Jackson. Now, we know, a lot of Lamar's stuff was running, but C.J. Stroud threw the ball 30 for 47 for 384 and 2 touchdowns against the Colts in week 2. I could see something very similar for the Rams coming out of this week because honestly, they're two offenses that a lot of people had just kind of written off that are kind of showing up to play on Sunday. And I like that pick a lot. I looked at him as well because he was sitting in that range of a couple guys that I really like. So I like that pick for you and Clay, definitely. And then so he is ranked right after the guy that I picked, C.J. Stroud, for my sleeper, playing a little bit tougher matchup, but I still think as much as he throws the ball, I think the volume is going to compensate for the strength of defense that he's going to be against. But he's going up against Pittsburgh at home. They're the 15th ranked against quarterbacks so far, but they just gave up 324 yards and 2 touchdowns to Jimmy G last week. So Stroud is the 10th ranked quarterback so far this year and put up at least 26 points the last 2 weeks against the Colts and Jacksonville. Now, not quite as good at defenses, but still, I like my chances for somebody just throwing the ball as much as he is with the playmakers that he has.
Yeah, I am so surprised that Houston is letting a rookie throw it as many times, but he's thrown it over 40 times a game. And, I thought they were going to be a run-first team, but, man, it's totally opposite of what I expected from Houston.
And I'll tell you, every time I see him play now, I've seen him play some this past week. I didn't see him play until this past week, but I'd get flashbacks of Deshaun Watson in that Houston Texans jersey, and that's who he reminds me of. He doesn't run quite as much, but when he throws the ball, especially the deep ball, he looks like Deshaun Watson throwing it. C.J. Stroud's out there throwing it to Tank Dell. Looked like Deshaun Watson throwing it deep to Hopkins or something. He looks good. He's definitely somebody I would have stashed if I'm not playing him for a bye week coming up. So anyway, moving on. Let's get on into our starts at running back. Josh, who do you got starting at running back?
All right. I got a guy that nobody talked about preseason, but this guy the last couple of weeks has been killing it, and that is Zach Moss. Man, he is getting big time volume. He had 30 carries last week for 122 yards and 2 catches for 23 and a touchdown. He's played 76% of the snaps over the last 2 weeks. He's looked great. He looks like a every week starter right now. The Rams haven't been great against the running backs. Joe Mixon had his best game of the year last week. He has top 10 upside this week, and I've got him in a couple leagues, and I'm definitely starting him.
Honestly, I can really see why they're not worried about. I mean, I'm not saying he's Jonathan Taylor, but it's like they're getting this kind of production out of their backup. It's like, why do we have to pay you more? Like, you know.
Then you start thinking, man, what would Jonathan Taylor be doing with this kind of volume and with the line playing like this?
That's right. So, but yeah, no, I like that pick a lot. Definitely. I mean, I've got him in a league. I was lucky to get him off the waiver after week 1, and he was supposed to be starting. So I picked him up and put him on the bench. And then I started him last week, and I'll be starting him again this week. And I like it a lot. The volume is king there, you know. So, and I think only Anthony Richardson coming back helps him just because of that threat by the run of the quarterback. I like it a lot. So, but yep. So moving on to Clay's pick at start at running back, he is Alexander Madison, somebody that I looked at putting as my start. Who has a great matchup at Carolina, who's the 30th ranked defense against running backs, just gave up 150 yards and 2 touchdowns to Seattle. So it's 37 points to Seattle. And honestly, I'm not expecting that out of Madison, but you got to expect something similar to what he did last week against the Chargers. You know, somewhere around 90 yards, maybe 4 or 5 catches. I do think Cam Akers gets a little bit of a run. That does worry me a hair, eating into his volume. I don't think this week is going to be one that's going to impact him tremendously because, you know, they're obviously going to ease him into the offense. But I do worry about that.
He's a guy that's playing for his job. Basically. And he's one fumble away from losing it.
And I'll be honest, if he goes off this week, I'm probably trying to trade him for somebody. I don't know who yet, but I'm probably trying to trade him for somebody. But I do think this is a good week for him, and I like that start a lot. So, and then going on to my start at running back, I mean, honestly, I felt like I was just cherry picking here, but he's still to me ranked a little low, but it's DeAndre Swift from Philadelphia going up against Washington. He's the 10th ranked running back in fantasy so far through 3 weeks, and he didn't even play week 1. Like, he didn't even play week 1. I mean, and then he's had at least 130 yards rushing the last 2 weeks. And now he's going up against Washington that just gave up 128 yards to Buffalo last week. I mean, I don't know if any of y'all, I know Josh has probably seen him play, but like when I seen him running the other night, and just like they had that view that's from behind the quarterback, and like he's got the ball carrying it, and there's these holes that are huge behind this offensive line. And I mean, it's like every time he gets the ball, it's a 10-yard gain. Every time. And
it's like this offense was made for him.
It does.
The way they block, I mean, it just looks easy for him.
Yeah.
Definitely. And the offensive line too, you know. Which he's on the perfect team. They're going to run the ball a lot.
Is.
I mean, he's still going to split carries.
Yeah.
But I think with the less volume, with his production, he's still going to put up huge numbers.
I mean, 16 carries for 130 yards last week and a catch. Now, you'd like to see some more catches, but honestly, Philadelphia doesn't throw the ball to their wide receivers a lot. I mean, their running backs a lot. So
they don't
it's
throw,
not like,
period, a whole lot.
Yeah, it's not like somebody else is getting those catches, So I don't know, but I feel like it's the Swift backfield. Now, Gainwell's getting about 40% of the snaps. He's still there, but I think Swift's got more than enough volume for you not to be afraid to fire him up every week. So,
in any game, I believe that, that's a little closer.
Yeah,
they're going to use him more. They, when they get up big, they're just running the ball, so they're going to put both of those in and out. But when they need to score,
Well, and they know his injury history, so they're probably kind of hedging their bet a little bit, trying to save some of those carries, which is
Yeah, they want him for the playoff run.
That's right. So, because they know they're going to have a good chance to make, they're probably going to make the playoffs, and they'd rather.
But he's always been a player that didn't need large volume.
That's right.
Even with Detroit.
Yep.
When he had good games, he didn't have to have a lot of volume.
Yep.
It's just when he touches the ball, he does something with it,
Yep. So,
and whoever picked him in fantasy, they got a steal.
Oh, they were sweating it after week 1 though, for sure. But
no doubt.
No doubt. Now they're feeling a lot better. So let's go ahead and roll on to our sits at running back. Josh, who you got? Who's sitting for you?
I got Rashad White. He's getting feature back volume.
Mm-hmm.
He's had one good game this year and a couple of bad games. New Orleans defense is tough on runners, especially at home.
Yep.
The Saints haven't allowed a touchdown to running backs this year. I expect the Saints defense to pick up the slack with Carr out of the lineup. Even though volume should be there, I still don't like the matchup he's getting with the Saints.
Completely agree. I've got him in a league. And actually, me and Josh were talking right before the pod how I pulled a player to start David Montgomery because he was ruled active right before this game started Thursday night, and that was who I pulled, was Rashad White to start for, and I put in David Montgomery.
It's paid off for you with Montgomery's game.
It sure has. So, but I was thinking about it ahead of time for the exact reasons that Josh just said. New Orleans at home, their defense is going to be fired up because they're going to have to, they know they're going to have to compensate for Derek Carr's absence. I expect this to be a low-scoring game. I'm not really expecting New Orleans to come out and beat the brakes off by any means. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if it was like 14-10 or something like that. Anyway, we'll see how it goes, but I just feel like that's what we're kind of in for this week. So, but yeah, I like that pick a lot. And then for a sit at running back, Clay has James Conner. Boy, we were just talking about this cat. He's it's pretty big one right there because he's number 9th ranked running back so far. Hasn't scored less than 12 points yet this season. He's got touchdowns the last 2 weeks. But I think what Clay's probably going for here is they're going up against the number 1 defense in the NFL at San Francisco.
And he's banged up.
Yep, but he practiced in full, so Clay probably didn't know that because they just released that right during the pod, pretty much.
And also we talked about earlier is for some reason he didn't play but 60-something% of the snaps, which I think is strange.
Yeah,
unless he was having that injury during the game that nobody talked about.
Could have been spasms or something like that. But I was looking, so the 49ers are only ranked 18th against the run. But really, last week they gave up 22 yards and a touchdown. And then the week before, 52 and a touchdown. So, but I think they're giving up some catches to the running backs, which James Conner's very good at. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. But honestly, I could see San Francisco coming in and shutting them down, and maybe Connor doesn't have a great game. So I definitely can see where Clay's at with that. I do feel like that if they do have to throw the ball, though, he'll still be involved because of his pass catching ability. But we'll just have to see how that plays out. And then at sit for me, honestly, I'm pretty sure this guy's just going to be sitting in the same spot. I don't think I'm going to have to change it for a while until he's just not a starter anymore. But that's Najee Harris for Pittsburgh at Houston this week. I mean, I don't even know what to say because it's a good matchup, but it's like he's got an average total of 5.7 fantasy points per game this year so far. Through 3 games, he's averaging 5.7 fantasy points. And really that should be enough. But not only that, he only played 50% of the snaps last week. And he's been declining each week since. And Jaylen Warren has outproduced him the last 2 weeks. So
well, I'm just waiting for Warren to take over.
I am too, but right
60-40 maybe.
Najee is still ranked higher. So
he's still starting too.
Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? I'll go ahead and put it back on there because if I had Najee, there ain't no way I'm playing him. And everybody asks me, what do I do, Najee? You put him on your bench. And either that, I mean, you can't really say drop him, but honestly, if he does get overtaken by Jaylen Warren, you drop him. Like, I mean, that's what I think. But
if something happens to him, Warren, it will be a stud.
Oh yeah, and that's what if Warren is out there, I highly recommend picking him up. But anyway, yeah. So I think there's a good chance it's going to be. And then with this, like going back, sorry, I got off the rails there. But this is a good matchup against Houston. But this is more about I think Warren is going to be successful and not Harris. So that's why I think you're sitting Harris in this one. So, and that's going to round out our sits. Let's go ahead and talk about our starts at wide receiver. Who do you got starting at wide receiver there, Josh?
Sleeper, huh? Sleeper.
Oh, sorry, sleeper. Yep. Nope.
Yep.
Sorry. I completely jumped sleeper running backs. My bad. Sleeper running back, Josh. Sorry. Thanks for keeping me
all right. I got Javonte Williams.
Yep.
He led the Broncos in snaps last week. He's been disappointing so far this year, but he's playing against the right team to get back on track. The Bears. We've been talking about players against the Bears. Yep. They've been bad against the run and already given up 7 touchdowns to running backs this year.
Yep. The
only team to give up more fantasy points to running backs is his team, the Broncos, which you like what about that was kind of skewed from last week.
Yep.
He should have his best game of the season so far.
Yeah.
And it's hard, like I said before, it's hard to believe that Sean Payton get this thing going this week.
Yep. I was talking to a buddy of mine at work the other day, and we were just talking about, like, we're still trying to figure out why he's not using Javonte Williams like Alvin Kamara. Because Javonte Williams catches the ball very well out of the backfield. And, I mean, I get it would be very foreshadowing or, like, predictable for him to do that. But it's like they're the same. They have a similar, like, skill set. So I don't understand why he doesn't use them that way. But I do feel like his usage is increasing each week. And I think there's a good chance that he gets more involved and is more successful because this is a good matchup this week. So I like that pick a lot. Man, all of a sudden having a sneezing attack. Sorry. And then rolling on to Clay sleeper. This one's very intriguing to me. Antonio Gibson. Clay's got Antonio Gibson as a sleeper this week. They're going up against Philadelphia at Philadelphia. And honestly, Antonio Gibson to me has been almost written out of that offense. So I'm trying to.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. That's what you call a deep sleeper there.
Deep sleeper. Because now, okay, all right. So Clay, I see you. Last week Antonio Gibson was in on 61% of the snaps. So obviously, if you do your math, that's more snaps than Brian Robinson was in on. So, but it's kind of weird because he was in on 61% of the snaps, but he only had 2 carries and then 5 targets for 3 catches. So I'm not 100% sure what he's doing when he's in on 61% of those snaps. Maybe blocking.
I guess. Maybe he's a better blocker.
But I mean, I can see where Clay's coming at with that, and which they were also trailing Buffalo for pretty much that whole game, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Josh? So
yeah,
maybe he's the guy they want in there when they're trailing, and that's what Clay's thinking is they're going to be trailing Philadelphia.
Well, we know he catches the ball well because he's an ex-wide receiver that they turned into a running back, so he can catch the ball. So that might be what he's thinking,
Yep. So I think that could be a surprising pick, and like you said, that is a deep sleeper. So, but moving on to my sleeper at running back, it's going to be one that I've had as a sleeper before. And I keep waiting, and it's coming. I know it is, but Roschon Johnson for Chicago. I mean, it's hard to pick or play anybody for the Chicago team, but Roschon is a very talented, skilled runner. And after seeing what Miami did to Denver, I feel like if somebody's going to be successful for Chicago out of the running back, it's going to probably be Roschon. It's probably going to be against Denver. So he out-touched Herbert last week, and he's going up against the worst run defense in the NFL thanks to Miami because they just gave up 351 yards and 5 touchdowns. But the week before, they also gave up 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. So we're talking, back-to-back weeks, they've given up at least 2 touchdowns. So,
well, how does Chicago not let Fields just run all over them in this game?
Yeah, I mean, and when he's running the ball, I think that's going to help Roschon run the ball. Especially, I don't know, but Roschon catches the ball well, he runs the ball well, and if he's out touching Herbert, I think it's just a matter of time. If he gets more opportunity, I think there's a good chance he could be valuable for you if you need like a flex play and you're in a deeper league or you got a bind with injuries or something like that. I think Roschon could definitely have a chance to at least fall in the end zone for you. So, but anyway, that's going to round out our running backs finally, like I was trying to skip earlier. My bad, guys. And let's get into our starts at wide receiver. Josh, who do you got starting at wide receiver?
All right, I got Puka Nacua.
Yep.
I wanted to put this guy on my reasons. One is because I think he's going to have a big game. We've talked about the Colts and how bad they are against the pass. So if we expect Stafford to have a big game, we should expect Puka to have a good game. They've given up a touchdown to 6 different wide receivers this year.
Yep.
But also I want to talk to him because he's had a great year so far. He's had 20 catches, 338 yards in three games.
Yep.
He's been a target monster for the Rams. And this may be the last chance I can put him on here because Cooper Kupp possibly could return next week.
Yep.
He's been an absolute stud so far, and I'm hoping maybe he gets his first touchdown this week.
There you go. I like it a lot, man. Honestly, I think Stafford could support in this offense because their defense is so terrible. They can support 2 wide receivers. Heck, they might be able to support 3 when Cooper comes back with Tutu. Like, Tutu Atwell is so explosive. He really only needs about 6-7 touches at the most, and he could be a flex play easy. And then Puka, I mean, he's starting to seem kind of like the same. I mean, you never know. We could be talking about 3 Rams wide receivers that are fantasy relevant at the end of the year.
Well, I don't think he's going away when I say that Cooper's coming back. But I just don't see any way where Cup's not his first go-to guy when he's chicken.
No, it's going to be the Cooper Cup show, but there's gonna be some volume going elsewhere. We're used to Cooper Cup getting 15 to 20 targets. I mean, maybe he's only getting 12 to 15. And then with Stafford, if Stafford's throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game, which could very well be possible, especially if he's got that many weapons, then there's plenty of volume to go around. So I like that pick a lot.
This offense is way better than people thought. Their offensive line has played better. Stafford looks healthy.
Yep.
And they found a running back.
That's right.
So, these are some play, and they're going to be probably behind in most games. So they're going to have to put points up. So this is going to be an offense you want a part of, I think, this year.
Yep, I agree. And then moving on to Clay's pick at start at wide receiver, he's got Amari Cooper, which I can really get behind because he's going up against Baltimore, who's the 26th ranked defense against wide receivers so far because their run defense is so good. Everybody's kind of having to pass against them, and they're having some success. Last week against the Colts, they gave up 180 yards, but they gave up a total of 39 points, 21 catches. And then Cincinnati, who's got a fairly, decent passing attack, which hasn't been the best this year, but they give up 19 catches, 172 yards, 2 touchdowns. So, and then Houston, they gave up 200 yards, 38 points to them. So I can get behind it. Last week, Cooper had 8 targets, 7 catches, 116 yards, and a touchdown. Definitely looked like Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper were getting their mojo back. So I like that pick.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Deshaun's looking a little better over the last week. I thought he looked the best he's looked since he's come back. So maybe he's starting to figure some stuff out again.
That's right. And so I like that pick a lot. And then my start at wide receiver, I've got the old man River, Adam Thielen, and going up against his former team. So I guess you could say a revenge game for him.
Yeah.
And but he's also the number 11th ranked wide receiver so far in fantasy this year. Number 11.
Had a huge game last week.
For the Carolina Panthers, the number 11th ranked wide receiver in fantasy. Who's seen that coming? But he's had at least 9 targets and 7 catches and a touchdown the last 2 weeks, at least. All right. So, you could be like, well, it's because Andy Dalton was there. Well, the week before, he had 9 targets with 7 catches and a touchdown with Bryce Young. So I don't care if it's Bryce Young or Andy Dalton. I would prefer Andy Dalton because he's more capable passers that we've seen so far. But not only that, they're going up against the worst ranked defense against wide receivers in Minnesota. So it doesn't matter to me. Dalton, Young, throwing the ball. Give me Adam Thielen. I'm putting him in my lineup. I mean, I think he's a great Mike Williams replacement, honestly.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I like that pick. I actually was going to do that, and I seen where you had him, and I was like, well, I want to talk about Puka before Cup comes back. So
because you probably won't be able to talk about him anymore.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and get on into our sits at wide receiver, Josh. Who you sitting this week?
Well, I'm going with the same guy I had last week, and Wilson.
Yep.
Until they get that quarterback situation fixed, I will probably have him as my sit just about every week.
Yeah.
Now they did sign Trevor Siemian, but is he the answer? I mean, come on.
I know. I seen that, Josh, and I was like, "Are you serious? Like, of all the people you could have signed, you're going to go and sign Trevor Siemian?"
Like, I mean, that shows you how bad Wilson is whenever they think Trevor Siemian could come in and be better. The worst thing about this is, man, this might be one of the top 5 most talented wide receivers in the league, and he's just going to be stuck on a team that can't get him the ball. And, man, most people wasted a late first round all the way, to early second. mid-range second
drafted
round.
him in the second round in the league
I
that
did
I got
too.
him in.
And I haven't played him the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Luckily, I drafted Michael Pittman Jr., who I've been able to start in front of him. But golly, it just stinks.
I give him credit for trying to get him the ball at least. Like, the last 2 weeks he's had at least 8 targets. Last week he had 9 targets. 5 for 48. Didn't get a touchdown, but they're going up against New England. And this week they got Kansas City, who's been a really solid defense so far this year. And I've got him in a league, and I'm going to start Cortland Sutton over him. I hate to do that, but Cortland Sutton's been far better than him this year. And so I'm going with Cortland Sutton against Chicago over him. And I hope he doesn't. I mean, I hope he goes off, but I'd hope he doesn't go off on my bench. And so we'll see. But I like the pick. It hurts my heart because I got him, and I completely agree because his talent is just. It's hard for I feel the same way about Breece Hall. I actually traded for Breece Hall in the league, and the talent is just so immense. It's hard to believe that it does not. Like the cream doesn't rise to the top eventually. You know what I mean?
How do they not make a move for some? It don't even have to be a great quarter. I mean, just somebody that does not turn the ball over.
I agree. But anyway, like that pick a lot. And then Clay has Mike Evans as his sit, and we all know where he's going with that. Mike Evans and the famous Mike Evans Marshawn Lattimore rivalry.
Yep. He's in his head.
I almost picked Mike Evans, but I had a good feeling one of y'all would pick him. But statistically speaking, how many times can somebody shut somebody down without the other guy having a game? You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of where I felt about it. I was sitting here thinking, I'm like, all right, so Lattimore shut him down. How long has it been, Josh? Is it like the last 6 meetings or something like that? He hadn't allowed more than like 2 or 3 catches or something. I mean, it's crazy, whatever it is.
I mean, it's a thing, that's for sure.
Statistically speaking, it can only go on for so long. And maybe this is the year where Mike Evans has a better game. Do I think he's gonna just go off? No, but who knows?
Well, I can say one thing: Lattimore is healthy.
Yeah.
So
and
when he's healthy, he's tough.
Yeah, that's right. So I completely get this pick, Clay. I'm behind it 100%. But if I had Mike Evans, can you sit him? I don't think
it depends on what you got behind him. You know.
But what if you got Mike Evans and Garrett Wilson?
Well, honestly, if you got Mike Evans, you probably got him way later than he was than what he was.
Yeah, you probably got him in that Michael Pittman range.
Yeah, because I mean, I got him in one league way late, and I got him for a third wide receiver, not even But I've been starting him the last couple of weeks because he's been doing good.
Yeah.
So you could sit him at where you got him.
Yeah, but anyway, Mike Evans, great pick to sit. Clay, and we'll see if they keep if Marshawn Lattimore can keep it going. My sit this week at wide receiver is going to be one that I've had before, and I'll probably have again. DeAndre Hopkins. What can you say? He has not had more than 8 points the last 2 weeks, and he's got no more than 4 catches the last 2 weeks, and he's getting targeted fair amount. Around 7 or 8, 10 targets here and there. But he's on a run-heavy team going up against an above-average Cincinnati secondary. And
the quarterback play hasn't been great there either.
Yeah, Tannehill has not been as good as he normally is, which, there's been grumbling saying that could be somebody the Jets go after is Tannehill. And, man, I don't know if that would be a good option or not either, the way he's been playing.
Better than Wilson.
But, yeah, he is better than Wilson because I feel like anybody would probably give you the ability to start Garrett Wilson again. But anyway, so DeAndre Hopkins for me is a sit against Cincinnati. I just think it's a situation that he's in more than anything. But
Yeah.
I'm going to keep leaving him there. I don't think he's going to blow up or go off anytime soon, but who knows?
Well, how long is it before he starts? You
That's
hear
right.
the grumblings,
Yeah.
from the diva wide receivers.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
So, but let's go ahead and move on to our sleepers at wide receiver. Josh, who you got sleeping at wide receiver?
Well, this is one we had kind of mentioned, for the Bears. I got DJ Moore.
Yep.
He's ranked number 34.
34th, really?
For this week, which I thought was kind of crazy going against Denver. But yes, he's ranked 34.
He sure is way down there.
Now, it hasn't been pretty for Moore and the Bears. But because of the matchup, I think he has a chance to maybe have his best game he's had of the year. I expect Fields to have a better game than he's been having.
Mm-hmm.
This game against one of the worst defenses so far. If he can't get right against this team, you might just have to give up on him.
Yeah. So I like that. I like that a lot. There's a ton of analysts that are right there with you. Obviously, last week, Miami put up 271 yards, 2 touchdowns against them, but Washington the week before 124 yards and touchdown, and then Las Vegas 152 and 2 touchdowns. So, bunch of touchdowns scored by wide receivers against the Broncos so far. I think that's a great pick there as a sleeper. And for a sleeper at wide receiver for Clay, he's got Elijah Moore, somebody that's kind of came to life the last couple weeks for Cleveland. Really last
Montgomery
week
just got his 3rd touchdown of the game.
Yep. 3 touchdowns. Sweet mother. He's on pace probably to beat Jamal Williams again. We'll see. So let's see. Elijah Moore going up against Baltimore. We talked about it. He really thinks they're going to I guess he thinks they're going to go ahead and Cleveland is just going to go to town.
Baltimore, huh?
It's Baltimore with Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore going off, or maybe he's expecting a shootout. But 26th ranked defense against wide receiver. So if they keep going to him, I mean, last week he had 9 targets, 9 catches for 49 yards, and 3 carries. So he's getting opportunity, and it's just a matter of time till he busts one. So Clay's thinking that's going to be this week.
Cleveland's had a good year. They got a good defense too.
Yep, their defense is really top 5. So, so that's Clay's sleeper at wide receiver, and then we're going to move on to mine. All aboard the Tutu train. Tutu Atwell, 17th ranked wide receiver in fantasy so far, averaging 17 points a game this season with at least 9 targets the last 2 games. And just same reason you picked Puka Nacua going up against the 25th ranked defense against wide receivers who just gave up 300 yards and 2 touchdowns against Houston a couple weeks ago. And I could very well see Matthew Stafford, Puka, and Tutu putting up 302 touchdowns again against Indianapolis. So I like Tutu a lot. I think him and Puka make a great tandem, and it's just crazy to think they're about to get Cooper Kupp back. You know what I mean? So
Tutu has had. I mean, we talk about Puka, all the volume he's had, but Tutu has had a lot of volume himself.
Yeah, I picked him up in a couple leagues, and I've started him the last week. I didn't start him the week 2 because I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, after he did it week 2, I was like, you know what? Maybe there's something to him. And so I picked him up, started him, and sure enough, I was like, man, I'll take 4 for 50 and a touchdown. So, so I like Tutu this week against Indianapolis. And that's going to round out our wide receivers. And let's roll right on into our tight ends. Who you starting at tight end there, Josh?
All right, I'm gonna start the number 4 tight end in the league so far, Evan Ingram. He's had 21 targets in the first 3 games, and he's caught 18 of those passes. And when Lawrence was struggling last week, he started looking for him. So he is kind of a safety blanket, I believe. The Falcons struggle against tight ends. Atlanta has allowed 9 touchdowns and the 4th most fantasy points to tight ends since the start of last year. I think he has top 5 upside, and he should have a chance for a big game in London, the Jaguars' second home.
I like it. That was actually my start also. So 8 targets the last 2 games, like you were saying about the targets. And Atlanta's 29th ranked defense against tight end. Last week, they gave up 8 for 84 to Sam Laporta in Detroit. And, I mean, I could see Evan Ingram doing it again. And, I thought Evan Ingram, before the season, he was going to be the odd man out in this offense. But no can do, said Trevor Lawrence. He was like, I got to have my tight end to throw to. And he's throwing to him. So, Evan Ingram, which he was fairly pricey in, I will say he was fairly pricey in drafts, because I remember when we were drafting, I was pretty surprised how high he was going, but hey, he's paying off. So I like that start a lot. Like I said, that was my start as well. And Clay's start at tight end, he's got old Kyle Pitts. Boy, he's been the Pitts, that's for sure.
Wow.
And
you sure that ain't a sit?
It says start, Clay. So I'm not trying to sabotage here. But yeah, he's got Kyle Pitts as a start this week. I see why, because he's going up against the 25th ranked defense in Jacksonville against tight ends. But Clay, they actually have to throw him the ball for him to score points. And they're throwing it to him to an extent, but man, he had 8 points last week against Detroit, 5 for 41, had 9 targets. So I'm guessing Clay sees that they're trying to give him the ball more, and he thinks they're going to get him the ball more against Jacksonville, and he's going to have a big week. So I can't.
Well, he's getting more targets than Drake London.
Yeah, and I can't fault him for being optimistic. I'm not as much from his track record, but 9 targets last week, there's a decent chance that he could be someone to be looking at. And he's probably gotten dropped in a lot of leagues. And if they start going to him that much, that could be somebody definitely to maybe take a shot with on your bench. And then, so that's going to round out our starts. Let's go ahead and jump on into our sits at tight end, Josh.
All right. My sit is Zach Ertz, just two targets in week 3. Now he faces a San Francisco team who has allowed only 62 yards total on the season to tight ends. Not looking too good for Mr. Ertz this week.
And honestly, that's Clay's sit as well. I can't really argue with y'all too much, except for the fact that I have him in a league and he's my only tight end in that league. So he's pretty much going to be who I'm starting. And I'm just going to roll with it. Whatever happens, happens. I really would like to start Logan Thomas, I'll be honest, if he can clear concussion protocol. He practiced fully, but he's still got to make his way through, and he's had multiple concussions in his career. So I would imagine it's a lot harder for him to clear than most people. But if he does clear, he might be somebody I might end up picking up to play. But right now, the way it looks, I'm going to be starting Zach Ertz in this league. It's a pretty deep league, so that would be probably one of the main reasons why I'm starting Ertz. But anyway, I completely agree with y'all's opinion on that. If I had any other choice, I will definitely try to find it. My sit at tight end is going to be one that honestly, I've got 3 sits that have been on here for a while, but it's going to be David Njoku again for Cleveland. Going up against Baltimore, honestly, just has to do with his usage and his volume. I mean, he's only averaging 5.7 fantasy points per game so far this year. And he's got a max of 4 targets per game. Like, he has not had more than 4 targets in a game yet. and he's got the second-ranked defense against tight end than Baltimore this week, who've only given up a max of 5 points per game at the tight end position so far this year. So he's averaging 5 points a game. The defense he's going against is only allowed 5 points. I mean, it just doesn't look good for David Njoku. Not only that, he's only getting 4 targets a game at the most. So, yeah, count me out on Njoku. I've got a Njoku in another league, in a dynasty league where you keep everybody, and I've got him sitting on the bench, and I don't even know why I'm holding him for, because Deshaun Watson doesn't throw to his tight ends, that's for sure. So, but that's my sit for this week, and then we can go ahead and roll right on into the sleeper tight ends there, Josh, if you want. Who's your sleeper at tight end?
I got Gerald Everett for my sleeper, with Mike Williams out for the year. Eckler's still banged up. He may see more targets. When injuries hit the Chargers receiver core last year, Everett become a reliable outlet for Herbert. He's had a slow start, but I expect him to pick it up with the injuries and possibly, be a pretty good red zone threat for the Chargers going forward.
I like it. Josh, I thought we only had 2, but apparently we had 3 of the same, because I've got Gerald Everett also. So, and a lot of the same reasons. Yeah. I mean, I had because I put him on a waiver pickup. Now, I will say he's missed practice. I seen this today. The last 2 weeks, he's missed practice for an illness. I mean, not 2 weeks, 2 days. So I will advise caution. I don't know. It doesn't say what kind of illness. It just says he's missed practice the last 2 days. So if he does sit, I can tell you right now, Donald Parham is the guy to fire up, because he's got 3 touchdowns on like 5 catches this year. And if he gets more opportunity, because Gerald Everett's by far ahead of him. He's a better route runner. He's a better pass catcher. He's just a better wide receiver in general. But if Parham gets more run, he could be somebody to fire up if Everett ends up sitting out because of this illness. So keep an eye on that. I completely agree, though. If Everett's there, I would pick him up and play him. I wish he was available in my Ertz league, because I'd pick him up and play him in a heartbeat. But he had 6 targets, 6 catches for 30 yards last week. And we've seen him be successful in the past when they're short on pass catchers in Los Angeles for Herbert. So not to mention they're going up against a 28th ranked defense against tight end, who just they've given up a touchdown to the tight end position the last 2 weeks. So, and if Gerald Everett's playing, I don't think it's Parham this week. I think it's Gerald Everett. So, he's my sleeper at tight end. So I like him a lot. And then,
I think he's got a chance for a touchdown this week.
Yeah, no doubt. And then last but certainly not least, for sleeper at tight end, Clay has Cade Otton for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's actually somebody I've been watching for the last couple weeks, because Tampa Bay has been going up against some really some good matchups for tight ends the last couple weeks. But last week was an excellent one for them against Philadelphia, and he only had 2 targets and 1 catch for 16 yards. And I really don't know what Clay's thinking on this one, because this week they're going up against New Orleans. And we all know Demario Davis does not let tight ends catch the ball in New Orleans. So, I mean, maybe Clay knows somebody that we don't know that knows something. But looking at New Orleans, they gave up 0 points to tight end in week 1. 5 in week 2, and 10 in week 3. And the 10 in week 3 was this Luke Musgrave, who's probably a lot better tight end than Cade Otton. But nevertheless, Clay thinks Cade's going to have a good week against New Orleans, so we'll see. And that's pretty much going to round out our start sit sleepers for quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. And I don't know about you, Josh, but I've got a defense that I picked to stream in Cincinnati at Tennessee. Cincinnati's defense, honestly, has been pretty surprisingly good. And Tennessee's offense has been pretty predictably not that good. So I like Cincinnati at Tennessee, or at least their defense this week. And did you have a defense, anybody you want to throw out there, Josh? Or
I didn't even really look at defenses this week.
Right. Yeah. So Cincinnati, and there's really not any great matchups for streamers other than Cincinnati at Tennessee. Pretty much all the other solid defenses that have good matchups are already owned in at least 60% of leagues. So, and then kickers. If you look for a kicker, guys, these two guys are some studs with indoor home games, and that's Brandon Audrey, the rookie kicker for Dallas. This week they're going up against New England and at home. And Audrey is the number 4 kicker in fantasy football in points so far this year. So if Brandon Audrey's out there, pick him up, start him. They're at Dallas against New England this week. I think it's a great matchup for kicker. And then last but certainly not least, Brett Maher did it last year with Dallas. This year he's with the Rams. And they're going to be at Indianapolis inside. And Brett Maher's the number 2 kicker in fantasy so far this year. So
I didn't realize the Rams had picked him up until I watched them play this last week.
Yep.
He was a stud all year last year.
Yep. I couldn't believe Dallas let him go.
Until he fell apart, at the very end and missed all those field goals.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But anyway, Brett Maher, number 2 kicker so far for the Rams. They kick indoors at home. This week you're kicking indoors on the road. Just 2 kickers to be thinking about. So that's going to wrap it up for us, though, guys. We appreciate everybody listening. Please like, subscribe, download, give us some feedback. We appreciate everybody. Go check out our sponsors, and good luck with everything this weekend, guys, and keep chasing that trophy.